Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2024 Black Desert Championship Data Dive Show. It's going to be a bit of a shorter show this evening. For one, we don't have any previous data to look at, so we're going to be making some inferences on what we think is going to play well here in Ivins, Utah. But also, I do feel a little bit under the weather, so I'm going to try to save as much of my voice as I can. So a little bit of a shorter show, but not to fear, we still will be covering all of the important information that you need to move forward this week with your optimal wagers and with DFS in mind. So, trying to save as much of my voice, let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You won't regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all of the social media. My X and Instagram, where I post various pieces of information, research, my betting card, my top player usage in the DFS contests I play. So give me a follow over at X if you want to see all of that. And then Gabe's handle is in the description as well. He writes a great article called The Fringe. I gave him a lot of well-deserved props last night's show for his spectacular performance at the Sanderson Farms. So you really are missing out if you aren't subscribed to his article. So make sure you are doing that. It is free to do. And go show him some support. Follow him over on social media. And then finally for this intro, we're live. Chat's open. How much do you know of the course? What do you think is going to play well here? Who are some of the players you're focused on early on in your research this week? We'd love to hear from you. Jump in chat or put it in the comments if you aren't able to catch the show live. But we're going to try to get into it. So let's dig into the weeds of the data for the 2024 Black Desert Championship. And we are going to start, as we always do, on a Monday evening over at the extended forecast over at Windfinder. Of course, we are in Ivins, Utah, which is about an hour and a half northeast of Las Vegas in the mountains of Utah. I did get confirmation, or at least found information, that this course does sit about 3,000 feet above sea level. So will be some added distance and some elevation to players and their yardages and adjustments and whatnot. Maybe not to the level that players had to adjust for the BMW a couple months ago, but certainly some calculations will have to be done playing Black Desert Resort. But looking at the forecast, looks very, very benign for now. I have read where winds can pick up quite extensively on the course, but at least for now, it doesn't look like they're going to be dealing with much wind. And of course, we'll update this at the beginning of the show Wednesday night. But highs, in the upper 80s to low 90s, very little wind. Wind does look like it picks up every day in the afternoon. Now Sunday looks like the leaders could be dealing with a lot of wind, so that'd be something to maybe think about. But early on in our week of preparation, doesn't look like there's a lot of wind to focus on. And as I mentioned, we will take a look at this again at the beginning of the show Wednesday night. So with that, we're going to move to Fantasy National, and not a whole lot to cover here, or at least in terms of how we usually cover a data dive show in a tournament with no previous iterations of the tournament. We're just going to try to infer what we think is going to play well here. With that, I know I said we were going to go to Fantasy National first, but let's take a look at the whole composition chart, and these are the whole yardages from the official scorecard on PGATour.com. If you weren't able to catch the show last night, we went in a hole-by-hole preview of Black Desert Resort to get a feel for how the course might play, par 4, par 5 strategies, any water, spoiler, there's not a lot, bunkerage and all that stuff. So let's just get a quick reminder on the whole composition chart here. We have two very short par threes here at Black Desert Resort. Two that are 152 and 156 on the scorecard, so two very short par threes. One mid-length and one fairly long par three at 202. The par fours are quite diverse, quite interesting here at Black Desert. Two drivable par fours, one on each nine. One at 318 and one at 326, I believe. So definitely drivable for 90 to 95% of the professionals in the field this week. Two drivable par fours, one short, one pretty short, one fairly short. Four par fours that measure 450 to 5, and then three that measure 500 plus, including the converted par 5. It is a par 5 for recreational play, but for tournament play, the par or the 13th hole is moved from a par 5 to a par 4. So three long par 4s as well. So good mix of par 4s. We might want to take a look at a few different ranges when we start covering par 4s, and then all three par 5s measure from 550 to 600 on the scorecard. So that gives us a decent reminder from last night's show. But my assumption is that Black Desert is going to play pretty darn easy with very little water, only 2 holes with water in play, and very few bunkers, even fewer than Sanderson Farms. There's not a whole lot of area for the players to get in trouble. They're just going to have to be very, very precise with their irons, which we'll cover here in a moment. When rounds are easy relative to par in the past couple of years, your top performers have been Chan Kim, Eric Van Rooyen, Peter Quest, Ryo Hitsatsune, Hayden Springer, Harry Hall, Chesson Hadley, Patrick Rogers, Ben Griffin, and Bo Hostler. Now the Sanderson Farms data is in from this past weekend, so Bo Hostler's very good tournament, Hayden Springer's tournament. If you see any players starred, for example, Mav McNeely here, he has withdrawn. Mav McNeely is not in the field, so I'll go ahead and show the 6 players as of probably about an hour ago that I have seen that are not in the field or have decided to drop out of the Black Desert Championship. Mav McNeely, Kevin Yu, last week's champion, has decided not to play in Utah this week. Emiliano Grillo, Anders Albertson, Parker Cootie, and Brent Snedeker. These 6 are who I have seen that have decided not to play this week. But there's a look at your top performers when rounds have been easy relative to par. Again, this is just an inference, but I'm pretty confident that Black Desert Resort is going to play pretty easy for these professionals. Keeping with the easy relative to par filter, let's take a look at off the tee. I don't know how much accuracy is going to matter. These fairways are pretty darn wide. Having said that, there is a note that they have tried to narrow these fairways for tournament play, but just due to the topography of the course, they needed to keep these fairways pretty wide with all of the lava rock and such around. So very, very wide fairways, and you're going to get a whole lot of, not a whole lot. You're going to get some added distance from elevation. I do think off the tee is going to factor in and be an important factor this week. I don't know how much, however, with fairways easy to hit, with everyone seemingly having some distance, I can see off the tee providing some importance, but I'm not confident on how much. But when scoring is easy relative to par, your top off the tee players in the field this week in Utah: Cameron Champ, Peter Quest, Keith Mitchell, Kevin Doherty, Tyler Duncan, Patrick Fishburne, Callum Tarrant, Stephen Yeager, Nick Hardy, and Alejandro Tosti. Again, skipping Kevin Yu because he has withdrawn. The other filter that we could apply is, fairways easy to hit. And we don't really know if the fairways will truly be easy to hit since this course hasn't been played. This is just some conjecture, but these fairways are very, very wide. So my guess is they are going to be easy to hit for professionals. So when fairways are easy to hit in the past couple of years, your top off the tee performers: Cameron Champ, Alejandro Tosti, Stephen Jaeger, MJ Duffy, Luke List, Keith Mitchell, Nick Hardy, Hayden Springer, Rico Hoey, and Tyler Duncan. So I think that's a decent start here. Looking at off the tee, I'm probably going to more favor the easy relative to par filter when thinking about off the tee. But there was some overlap there. Cameron Champ, Stephen Jaeger, Kevin Yu, of course, who's not playing, but there was some overlap there in terms of off the tee performance. If we move to approach, and I've got this for the last 3 months, however, it's only going to go, and we're only going to get 28 rounds back to the RBC Canadian. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. So your top approach players in the field this week, past 36 rounds or 3 months. Top approach players, and I do think this is going to be very, very important because there doesn't appear to be a lot of miss room, a lot of bailout area, particularly around the greens. I don't think around the green game is going to matter all that much, but I do think approach play is going to be very important, especially because these greens are very large, 7,000 square feet on average. So your top approach players in the field this week: Doug Gim, JJ Spawn, Keith Mitchell, Ben Griffin, Nick Hardy, Ches Reavie, Chan Kim, Austin Smotherman, David Lipsky, and Mac Meisner are your top 10 in terms of approach players in the past 3 months. And this is going to be probably one of the heaviest weighted statistics in the model. Usually is for me. It's the type of players that I prefer to focus on, but it probably will have some added weight this week with a lot of the unknowns around Black Desert. And then finally, in terms of a strokes gained look, we're going to look at putting. And a reminder that these are 007 XL bent. We've only seen that once on the PGA Tour. That was this past this past Charles Schwab Challenge 2024, Charles Schwab at Colonial, when their resurfaced greens became this 007 bent. So we took a quick look at putting at the Charles Schwab Challenge last night in the initial research show. So if you're interested in that, I suggest you go take that, give that a look. Now, on the stimp from the GCSA tournament fact sheet, they said the stimp was going to be 12, which would certainly be fast, but we just don't know. We don't know for certain. If you wanted to hedge, I would say looking at fast or maybe even lightning bent greens would be correct to do. But because we just don't know for certain, I'm just going to look at bent green performance. So your top putters on bent greens the past 2 years, your top putters, have been Dylan Wu, Aaron Baddeley, Harris English, Harry Hall, Justin Lauer, Sang-Yul No, Chandler Phillips, Kevin Kisner, Taylor Montgomery, and Martin Laird. Those are your top 10 in terms of just total bent performance on putting. Of course, skipping Matt McNeely, he has withdrawn. Now, at the end of the show, I will have some putting information for you all, looking at a player's baseline and then their performance on bent. But something that I kind of liked last week when I looked at the Sanderson Farms is this spike percentage. How often does a player gain X amount of strokes per round? Let's just go ahead and do one. How often players in the field this week gain one on these bent greens? So we're going to go, we'll just go all rounds uh, in the last 2 years, I guess. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, because yeah, bent. There we go. Okay, so on bent greens in the past 2 years, if we're wanting to look at spike putting performance, so the players who have spiked most often on a bent and who have, a decent amount of rounds, Mav McNeely, who of course has withdrawn. Kevin Kisner, 26 rounds. He has gained 1 stroke in 13 of those 26 rounds. Okay. Dylan Wu, a big spike performer on bent. Harry Hall, of course, his win at the ISCO, formerly the Barbasol. Those are bent greens. Justin Suh, Justin Lauer, Hayden Springer. Very, very excellent performance at the Sanderson Farms, now coming to a tournament that has greens where he has spiked, let's see, looks like maybe 9 or 10 of the 22 rounds. Andrew Novak, C.T. Payne, Patrick Fishburne, no surprise here, a Utah native, BYU, etc. Higo, somebody I was very high on, didn't work out last week. Brandon Wu, Peter Quest, another Utah or at least BYU native. So there's a few players to keep in mind moving forward this week that they spike. I don't know how much I am going to use or factor in spike performance this week. That was more so for the Sanderson Farms, and we saw that from Kevin Yu. Kevin Yu's traditionally not a very good putter, but gained something like 8.5, I believe, at the Sanderson Farms. Gained 8.7, and you can see, he had not been very good historically, but that's what it takes, and that's why we were looking at spike performance last week. So I figured I would show it, at least for gaining 1 stroke. But I'm more interested in this week seeing who putts well on bent, above their baseline. So there's a look at what I am thinking about for the, or in terms of strokes gained for the Black Desert Championship. We'll go to fairways and greens. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot that would work here. You could maybe look at driving distance the same way, like off the tee, but everybody's going to have distance because of the elevation. What we can do, I guess, when fairways are easy to hit, and again, this is an assumption on my part that these are going to be easy to hit because these fairways are so wide. But when fairways are easy to hit in the last 36 rounds, your top driving distance players: Cam Champ, Keith Mitchell, Matty Schmid, Alejandro Tosti, Callum Tarrant, Carl Yuan, Trey Mullinex, Joseph Bramlett, Peter Quest, and Pearson Cootie. Driving distance when it's easy also makes a lot of sense. Sorry, Fantasy National is moving about as slow as I am tonight. Your top driving distance players when scoring is easy: Cameron Chant, Peter Quest, Callum Tarrant, Kevin Doherty, MJ Duffy, Thor Bjornsson, Hayden Springer, Will Gordon, Garrick Higo, Ryan Brim, and Pearson Cootie. Okay. I don't foresee a lot else in here. Fairways gained, and these fairways are extremely wide, so they should be pretty easy to hit. Good drives. Again, players are going to be hitting fairways, and these greens are pretty large, so I just don't see greens or good drives either. And I don't know, there might not be anything from this page view. If there was something, it would be driving distance, but I just don't see it for this week until we get at least one tournament's worth of data to see how this course is going to play. So let's move to scoring. And there's a couple things here that I think are going to be useful for us just like we looked at the Sanderson Farms, we're going to look at opportunities, and birdies are better. Again, I just think this is going to be pretty darn easy for these professionals. So when rounds are easy relative to par, your top opportunities gained players, and make sure you keep these players in mind, not only for the fact that they're just going to give themselves a lot of opportunities, but especially when we start really looking at the putting towards the end of the show, players who spike on bent and who are pretty high in these opportunities gained, these are the players you're going to want to focus on this week. So your top opportunities gained players when rounds are easy: Joel Damon, Chris Kirk, Harry Hall, Sammy Valimaki, Troy Merritt, Doug Gim, Pat Desire, Michael Thorbjornsen, Rico Hoey, and Lucas Glover. Your top birdies or better gained players: Chan Kim, Eric Van Rooyen, Peter Quest, Hayden Springer, S.H. Kim, Harry Hall, Sam Ryder, Rio Hitsatsune, Kevin Chappell, Pearson Coody, excuse me, and Justin Lauer. So these two metrics, opportunities, especially opportunities, but even birdies are better when rounds are easy. These are going to be decent sized factors in the mixed condition model. There's actually a little bit of a argument to look at eagles with the 2 drivable par 4s and 3 par 5s that I am very confident are going to get intact in 2. You can take a look at eagles. I'm still going to use birdies or better gained come Wednesday night in the mixed condition model. But your top Eagles gained players when rounds are easy: Tway, Toasty, Luke List, Wesley Bryan, Peter Quest, Rico Hoey, Rafael Campos, K.H. Lee, Adams Vincent, and Joseph Bramlett. Okay. We're going to get to the par 3s, 4s, and 5s, but we can take a quick look at proximity, particularly because these greens are so large. Maybe proximity might play a decent factor. Hard to say. I would be in between looking at procs and honestly the 200 plus procs. Total procs, for the reasons I just mentioned, big greens and whatnot. 200 plus procs, you've got 3 pretty long par 4s here that are over 500 yards that are going to demand a pretty long iron shot into the green, and the 3 par 5s are all going to get attacked in 2, I'm pretty sure. So we'll take a look at this. Excuse me. Let's just look at the 2024 season. Last 36 rounds. Your top total procs performers in the last 36 rounds: Nate Lashley, Chandler Phillips, Troy Merritt, Lucas Glover, Chan Kim, J.J. Spong, Kurt Kitayama, Grayson Sigg, Keith Mitchell, and Doug Gim. Your top 200 plus procs performers: J.J. Spong, Michael Kim, Keith Mitchell, Troy Merritt, Sammy Valimaki, Andrew Novak, Nick Hardy, Kevin Doherty, Chandler Phillips, Kurt Kitayama. So I would be between one of these 2 if you're wanting to take a look at proximity this week. Not sure if I'm going to put that in the mixed condition model, but it's definitely worth a thought this week with big greens, and then how many approach shots seemingly are coming from 200 plus with the par 5s and the 3 long par 4s. But we'll move into par 3s, 4s, and 5s. Again, pretty even split. The vision will be skewed, but pretty even split in terms of the par 3s. We have those 2 short par 3s right at 150, one that's one between 175 and 200, and then one at 202. So you're looking at mostly these 2 ranges here. Again, I'll sort on these par 3s, but you're mainly wanting to look at these 2 ranges here, mostly, I would think. So somebody like David Skins, top 10 in both. Eric Van Rooyen, Nate Lashley, Aaron Baddeley. Honorable mention maybe to Pearson Coody, Bud Cauley, definitely C.T. Pan, 13th and 16th at those 2 shorter ranges. So there's a few names to think about. A little bit further down here, Justin Suh, 2nd and 33rd. So there's a few names to think about in terms of par threes, I apologize. My voice is getting ready to go pretty quick, so it's going to be quite a bit of a shorter show. Par fours, we're going to want to look at 2 to 3 ranges here. We're going to look at the drivable par fours and then the 500 plus. So your top drivable par 4 performers: Lucas Glover, Nicholas Lindheim, Hayden Springer, Ben Griffin, Andrew Novak, Keith Mitchell, Daniel Berger, Ryo Hitsatsune, Chad Ramey, and C.T. Pan. So definitely consider these guys a little bit. 2 drivable par 4s at Black Desert Resort. And then your 500 plus: Keith Mitchell, Patrick Rogers, Doug Gim, J.J. Spawn, Jacob Bridgman, Nico Echeverria, Harry Hall, Wesley Bryan, and Shane Kim. So, and then lastly, par 5 scoring, very easy. All 3 par 5s on the scorecard measure 550 to 600. Your top performers at those lengths of par 5s: Patrick Fishburne, Hayden Springer, Adam Svensson, Paul Barjon, Seamus Power, Kurt Kitayama, Keith Mitchell, Kevin Chappell, Cameron Champ, Stephen Yeager, Kelly Craft. All right. Again, apologies. Last thing we're going to show for the evening is we'll go to Microsoft Excel. Boy, Fantasy Nationals having a rough time like I am. This is a quick little spreadsheet that I put together showing a player's base performance per round. So it's, in the past 2 years, Tim Wilkinson has averaged losing a half a stroke per round. That's what this is showing. So this is the past 2 years, how many rounds, and their base performance per round. This is their performance on bent. As you can see, Tim Wilkinson, very, very few rounds, so I would not get crazy with this, but he putt very, very well on bent. Did not putt well on non-bent. But players that have at least a modicum of rounds here that makes it somewhat statistically significant: Rafael Campos, 56 total rounds in the past 2 years. He's actually been pretty solid on bent. Rico Hoey, ADDC a little bit. He hadn't been great, but compared to his base, he's been much better. Bud Cauley, Brandon Wu is the big spike here. 170 rounds, but in 50 bent rounds, he's actually gained a third of a stroke per round. And you can see their difference there. So there's a list of the players who are much better on bent compared to their baseline. I'll scroll down just a little bit for you all. Get a few names in there. And then if we sort the other way, difference smallest to largest, players who have not been good on bent. You see Alex Bjork, been very good on non-bent, but has lost 0.6 of a shot per round on bent. Been very bad. Toasty, few rounds, but Echeverria, been very bad on bent. Ryo Hitsatsune has been very bad on bent. Kurt Kitayama, extremely bad on bent. So I'll let you get a look at these players. Maybe some names you might want to consider avoiding, considering they've been much worse on bent compared to their baseline. So anyway, I'll resort this on. Actually, let's go with top bent performers. Actually, for you all. So sort it on this column here. So Lauer, Badley, Phillips. That's going to be it for the show. Again, I apologize. It's a bit short and a bit rushed, but my voice is about to go out. Nobody wants to hear me cough and hack up a lung on stream. So feel free to reach out to me on social media if you have any questions regarding anything that I covered tonight, or if you have some other questions that you would like answered before you start building your lineups and thinking about wagers for the week. Well, that's going to be it for the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching, listening, supporting the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. Hopefully your Sanderson Farms went well. Mine was okay. It was decent. So we're gonna try to build on some minor momentum for the Black Desert Championship this week. So thanks again for all the support, for all the wagers you've made so far this week for the Black Desert Championship, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week for the Black Desert Championship, and until I see you Wednesday night for the DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable.